Go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murray Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from our separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Murray, happy
Happy
Easter.
Easter, everyone. Happy Easter, Heidi. Happy
Happy.
Easter to everyone out there. We're recording on Easter 2020 during the pandemic that we are all currently facing.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy your pandemics far better if you subscribe, like, and share to us, Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.
MAMAS.com. Yes, you can find us on
You can
all platforms. Stitcher's my favorite, but also YouTube. You can subscribe in these faces. These
I'm going to
faces.
tell you, YouTube is great because you
Yeah.
get to see our facial expressions and we are funny.
you're
We're
you're
really funny.
you're funny. I'm always trying to find stuff on my desk. So maybe that's hilarious. Okay, Murray, so today we're going to talk a little bit about immunity and herd immunity and vaccinations and where the hell we're going from here. So I'm going to let you start.
Okay. All right. So we are going to touch a little bit about on um, this this idea out there that immunity exists for COVID-19, that antibodies will protect you, and that a lot of countries and states are banking on to give people a sense that we're going to be able to restart again. And then once we mention those, what we want to focus on is really the implications that nobody's addressing yet.
Well, Murray, the problem with talking about immunity is to get what's called herd immunity, which everybody's buzzing about right now, is not possible nor probable. That's 40% of people who have been vaccinated, we don't have a vaccination, or have recovered from the virus. The problem is the virus is mutated. So people who got the first strain are now getting the second strain, and the people that got the second strain are now getting the first strain.
Well, let's
And
just
we
even
don't really know
start
where we're
talking
at.
about the virus. Right, Heidi, you're 100% right. The virus itself, this takes me back to all of the crap we hear coming out of Pennsylvania Avenue and the pundits and those
Don't
with an
listen to
agenda,
anything from Pennsylvania Avenue, for God's sake. So,
right? But people do, and then it gets reported, and the media is really attached to this idea of immunity. But let's stop and look at the science.
yeah.
There are several things that we need to understand right here. I want everyone to pay attention. One, we do not know if having antibodies makes you immune. There are these tests out there that we're going to talk about, antibody tests, and it
Titers.
will tell you blood finger pricks. Now, those exact tests were given zero FDA oversight rapid approval, one company, for this test that tells you what your antibodies are.
Yep.
We also, the FDA has fast tracked, removed the wait, removed the regulations in place for 70 companies to produce these rapid antibody tests. They're going to be home antibody tests. So, problem one, no oversight. Problem two, these tests haven't been tested. Problem three, we already have fake COVID tests on the market. We're going to have fake immunity tests on the market, giving people a false sense of security.
Right.
So, ding, 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 we got a big problem there. So,
We do.
whether it's legitimate or illegitimate, the reliability of these immunity antibody tests is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what's worse than that is we don't know. Science doesn't know.
No.
In other countries, we have seen people getting reinfected with the disease.
Absolutely, Murray. Absolutely.
And,
People are getting reinfected, whether it's with the first version or the mutated version. Nobody knows. We don't have that information.
and And there is some research, albeit anecdotal
Anecdotal.
and
Yes,
small
anecdotal. Not
studies,
good enough.
but still small studies that show that folks who do revisit with the virus a second time get far more sick and more severely.
Yeah.
Now, remember, what we know is viral load. We do know that this virus, the more you're exposed to it, should you contract it, the more severe your symptoms are going to be,
Right.
which is why we see so many healthcare providers, so many frontline
Yes.
workers so many people who are in close proximity to each other. That's why we see so many of them getting so very sick and needing the intensive medical care
Murray, I
because their
was
viral loads are that much higher.
reading something today in the New York Times about how uh, healthcare professionals in other countries are not getting sick at the rate ours are getting sick. It's because ours are not provided with PPE or the correct PPE to be able to protect themselves. That's why they're having a very difficult time staffing some of these facilities. We don't have what we need now. Illinois does a pretty good job. Every single hospital in Illinois has enough PPE, proper PPE, for 1 week. That's how they're doling it out 1 week at a time.
And some of those locations are not necessarily, they're rationing it in their own way,
Right.
which becomes a problem. Those healthcare facilities are determining when and what people should get, which they have to, but that, the rationing of it. So okay, so we're talking about viral load, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are workers who are frontline workers who are coming back after surviving the virus with antibodies, believing that they're immune, but we don't know for sure. In fact, of those that have been 30% of people who've recovered from this disease don't have any antibodies at all,
Right.
which means guaranteed 30% of the people who recover from this do not have antibodies and are not immune in any way, shape, or form.
And
So
nobody.
another problem with this immunity,
Mhm.
oh, go ahead.
No, and nobody knows who's who. There isn't
No.
enough testing. There isn't enough. Uh,
So that's the whole second part of this
that's
is
a
nobody knows
problem.
who's who.
That's a problem with
But
the anecdotal evidence, Murray. It's that way with the Plaquenil drug that our president's been touting as a cure-all. I keep telling you, I took that in 1995 and it almost killed me. So other people are taking it and dying from toxicity, and most people are just not finding that they're getting well. So we have to really couch anecdotal evidence at this point in time. This, in my opinion, this virus, this pandemic is too severe for us to go by anecdotal evidence.
exactly. So even if we find as we move forward, and we should look toward countries that have been battling this disease longer,
Mm-hmm.
even if we find that the antibodies do present some immunity, we don't know how much protection is needed. How many antibodies do you need in order to have protection against the virus?
Nobody
And
knows.
how long does your immunity last? And if your immunity lasts and you're given an immunity card or you're given some sort of certificate and that immunity wears out,
How do you
how are
know?
you right? And then, oh my goodness gracious. And when we think about it, you had mentioned, well, herd immunity. And unfortunately, we don't have enough information, but beyond that is herd immunity may not even work. So
Right.
we have
Murray,
look at
m-
chickenpox.
look at measles. We know for a fact that there aren't enough people to prevent the anti vaxxers from getting it. Or people who had the vaccine a long time ago and maybe it's not as effective. People my age are saying, hey, you need to get another MMR or measles
Booster.
booster because of the anti vaxxers. And I keep thinking, no matter what we do, Murray, you can't convince those people to vaccinate their children because they don't trust the government. It's science. It's science. You don't trust science.
And even if we can't develop, let's
I'm
there
sorry.
are
I'm,
viruses out there
yeah.
that antibodies and vaccines don't work for.
Yes.
Tetanus, you have to get a booster every so often.
Right?
But HIV, you can have a ton of antibodies in your system,
Yeah.
and it does nothing to shorten the progression or to help the disease along. So there's also research that are telling us that may potentially make people more vulnerable.
Right. And
And
that's what worries me about trying to develop a vaccine right now, Marie, is all the years, the decades we've tried to develop an HIV/AIDS vaccine, and we failed. We have failed. I hope that we're able to do better with this virus because,
well, yeah, because it doesn't just predominantly affect a certain demographic.
but
We
we,
watched last night. Side note:
yeah,
we watched Queen last night, and of course that brings up the war against homosexuality in the 80s and the HIV/AIDS pandemic. And it wasn't as much of an issue then, and nor will it be now because they did something to deserve it. Remember, they were gay,
Oh
they were
God.
abhorrent, they were drug users. It wasn't until people who'd had
Rock Hudson.
transfusion,
Until Rock Hudson
until
had it. That's when,
no, even
well,
more than that. It wasn't until moms. It wasn't until dads. It wasn't until dentists. You were
yeah,
contracting it from a dentist that all of a sudden it became a prime concern. And that's exactly the same thing that happened with this pandemic. Nobody gave a
right,
crap when it was in Iran. Nobody gave a crap when it was in China or Asia. The only time anybody gave a damn was when it hit Italy and started to impact white countries. And that's, I think it comes down to that as a part of it. But let's talk about these immunities, okay?
okay, let's go.
Heidi, have you heard of the have you heard what Germany is now doing
No.
or considering?
Oh, wait a
So
minute.
the
Yes, I have. So go ahead.
no, please.
Well,
Yeah, so go
Germany
ahead.
isn't Germany now Germany, who's had a problem with saying papers please in the past, wants to have a certificate with every single person that has immunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they have the immunity testing,
Yeah,
the
Germany,
antibody
not a good
testing.
idea
Now
for you.
it just isn't a real good look.
No.
I mean, of all the countries out there asking for papers from a government,
Yeah.
probably should
Yeah.
not be
Probably them
Germany.
and so the Soviet Union. But I would put the USA right up there right now. There's a certain part of our countrymen that have been wanting to have people carry papers with them besides a driver's license, you know, so that you can be
Photo
asked
ID
at any
for
time.
voting.
It's stop and frisk all over again. Hello, Michael
And that's
Bloomberg, you know. So,
exactly. And that starts becoming a bigger question. So let's hypothetically say all the questions about the immunity are out the window. Once you get the disease, you're immune for 6 months. We know you're immune for 6 months, but how do we tell those people apart? So what we do is instead of those folks being kept at home and not being able to travel and that those immune folks have the freedom, which creates even more class systems, which creates more resentment and anxiety and anger that some people are able to work and travel and go to concerts and things because this immunity card could be used in every aspect. So Germany is looking to do 100,000 people and test for it. Now, we would have to issue these certificates, would have to be monitoring them and managing them, and then right, how would we do that? So,
well,
um,
in Murray, I understand, whenever you're in a confined space, like in a school or on an airplane, that it would be good to know that you don't have to worry about the people around you, right? That everybody is vaccinated or that everybody has immunity. I know my husband and I just canceled our bucket list trip for this summer because we know we can't count on things this summer. We don't know where we're headed. So we're going to hope for next summer. And it's one of those things that it's good to know where everybody's at and it's difficult to know where everybody isn't. But we don't know enough right now to know if your immunity card is really valid or not.
and but let's just hypothetically let's go crazy type. Okay,
Hmm.
well, let's talk a little bit about this immunity card concept. So, if I'm a business, I could conceivably say no one is allowed to come work for me unless they have this immunity card, right? Now, there's no protections in our laws for that. It doesn't fall under the American with Disabilities Act. And the reason it doesn't fall there is because these are disabilities. Now, if someone has lung damage from COVID-19 and are
Hmm.
incapable of performing tests they did before, they would fall under the ADA.
Right.
But there's no protection against discrimination for someone
Hmm.
because they're healthy, able-bodied people
Right.
who may or may not contract the disease. There's no there is a clause that they executed saying you can't fire somebody for staying home having COVID, but that doesn't protect the people in the workplace from it. So what kind of issues does that open ourselves up to?
Well, is it that you can't go shop at the local Shop and Save
Piggly
or
Wiggly?
Piggly Wiggly, the local Aldi, the local Walgreens if you don't have an immunity card? Is it
Exactly. Well,
that you can't
I
take?
bought tickets to Lollapalooza.
Oh boy.
Cities, governments, festivals. If I don't have an immunity card, I don't get to go do that festival. I'm not allowed to
No,
buy a ticket for it.
you're not allowed to use
So
public transportation.
I'm not allowed to take an Uber to get where I need to go, or
Nope.
a taxi, or
Yeah. I think these immunity cards sound good, but are just open up a whole can of worms, Murray. I don't like that idea, and I certainly don't like the idea of assuming we have herd immunity. I think what we need to do, in my opinion, is wait until we have a tried and true vaccine. We need to take social distancing as a new normal for the next year or two until we work through this, and I do mean the next year or two. um, I've canceled my horsemanship summer day camp for this year. I just can't guarantee the health and safety of the children or myself. And, and that's a huge financial blow to me and to my business. I will be fine because I have no mortgage. But at the same time, other businesses are really going to be struck down by this. This is going to be very difficult. And I know,
so think about it. Think about those in power. Think about those mercenary capitalists that we talk about. Think about all of those jackasses in positions of power in the government. Think about the freaking legislators who said, I'm sure grandma and grandpa will be willing to sacrifice for their grandchildren's future. That's the mentality
yeah,
behind getting the government open. And my fear is that we are going to throw caution to the wind in an attempt to get
the economy
things
going.
reopened. We are
Murray,
not going to take the time and the research that we need. And that's
yeah.
concerning to me.
I know that a lot of people, the Occupy Wall Street movement is well in the past, at least 5, 6 years at this point. But we have to understand that the reason those people were there is only 38% of the country owns anything. Usually it's in their 401k that's involved with the stock market. Most of the stock market is owned by about 9% of Americans. And even less. I mean, I think most of it actually goes to the top 1%, top 10% of the 1%.
Oh, my Heidi, I got to tell you though,
What?
come on. How many times have we been to rallies, to protests, to counter protests, and talked to people? People do not
Understand.
understand
Right.
that Wall Street is not the
Main Street.
economy.
It is not
They don't
Main
get it.
Street.
They
And
are two completely separate
it's
entities. Do they
because,
work coincide with each other? Yes.
yes and no.
But
Not as
it
much
is
anymore.
not.
Not since we've had this huge division in income and earnings. Now that we have a huge wealth gap and we no longer really have a middle class, it's squeezed down to a very small amount, and we have these working class and working poor, and then this echelon up at the top. People need
And
to
that's what this testing is going to do, whether it's
exactly.
legitimate. First off, my biggest fear is that it's not going to be legitimate and it's going to be a cluster and we are going to be far worse off. Think back to the Spanish flu of 1918.
Yeah.
The second wave was far more deadly, even though we had information, we had knowledge. So that's my first concern. But my second concern, Heidi, is you are absolutely right. It creates such a greater division between the haves and the have-not. It's the stark sneeches.
It is. It's your favorite book again. But Murray, just remember a couple months ago, our president tried to buy the German scientists' research for the vaccine, which is the most promising vaccine out there, and the people that got the earliest start. Now, they turned him down. China came back with another offer. China, at 160 times more they were willing to spend to purchase the rights to this vaccine, making it not only the class warfare I'm sure it's going to turn into, but a modern day germ warfare. The scientists, the scientific community banded together, foreign scientific community. I have to say, our research R&D here in the United States is so commercial right now. I don't know where their integrity is at. But the scientific research
The
community,
fact that 70 companies have developed an antibody test that are more than happy to have it fast tracked, and we don't know if they're legitimate or not, I agree with you. I'll
we
tell you exactly where our
well,
research is.
so the scientific communities in Italy and Spain and Germany and Hungary and the other countries that are working on this vaccine have decided not to sell their research, that they are going to keep it so that the vaccine is free or very affordable for everyone. Now, you know damn well, Murray, that there is going to be a race to get this vaccine out, number one. Number
And to
two,
patent it.
well, and to patent it. So in 10 months, 8 to 10 months, we'll have a vaccine. But we won't have enough to go around until it's completely approved, which means we could be another, from today, 18 months to 24 months to get it all produced and get everybody vaccinated. And you know who's going to get vaccinated first in the United States?
Absolutely.
Those with the cash. The rest of us,
Mhm.
too bad, so sad. You know, Medicare, I imagine, will step up and start vaccinating people who are on Medicare. But the people we really need to be thinking about are the people on Medicaid, not Medicare. The people who
Heidi,
fall through the cracks and
let
have
me
nothing.
let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you think those on Medicare would be the first to get vaccinated, but wouldn't it behoove our resources to not have as many folks who are in need of assistance?
Well, Marie, come on. You know that you and I both see that as
Listen,
a
I
pattern.
just want to say this for
Mm-hmm.
the record. If
Yeah.
I'm a good person, okay, a little evil, but I'm a genuinely good person and I would
Yes.
never act on horrible thoughts. But if I'm a good person and these thoughts come into my head, there are people who are more maniacal and smarter and have more resources than I
Oh, yeah.
who are thinking these exact same thoughts. And they're manipulating whether this virus was accidental, intentional, whatever the case is. They will find a way to manipulate this virus to their own ends. Look at
Yeah.
technology, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's just hypothetically say that we have to open the economy. We can't stay closed for another, so we're questioning the immunity thing. What we're doing is we're doing the tracing.
Yeah.
So in the Kingdom of Bahrain, they have quarantine sections of the city and people who are to be isolated and self quarantining.
Mm-hmm.
They have fitted them with ankle bracelets and
Of
they are
course they have.
monitored with GPS. So if you travel outside the quarantine zone, the police are then notified and they come get you.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, but Apple and Google are working together to create an app. And this was just released. And this app is a voluntary app. So you can download it for free, opt in. That attaches your GPS data of your phone to a network and a data cache
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that I then start feeling sick. It's 6 months from now. I go to the doctor. I test positive for COVID. I would go on to my app and enter positive. And everyone that I came into contact with that shared that app, that shared that GPS location over the last 14 days, would be sent a notification that they had received or that they were in contact with someone who contracted the disease. Can you even begin to fathom the hate crimes, the division, that alone? We're not talking about immunity cards. We're not talking about herd immunity or anything or vaccines. Right now, we're just talking about a GPS system that enables, and they won't know your name, they won't know where you live, but they will know that they were notified that they came into contact with someone. But what about those folks? You would figure out who it was,
Right.
right? I mean, I don't think it would be that
Well,
hard.
unless you were at work or at school or at the mall or at the grocery store, that puts out a whole lot of people that you aren't normally around. You know, if you were at the park,
True.
hey, the state senator that I ran against, Sue Resin, has to
I
say, did
saw.
you see that? She thinks we should open up the state parks and the trails again. She's such a freaking moron. And what does she care from her ivory tower if people die? I mean, she's got
She
excellent health
doesn't.
care. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about
Mm-mm.
you. There's not a Republican on this planet that cares about you. Not you, Murray, but, well, you too.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Republicans on this planet that don't give a flying fig about us,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Are we talking about Adam
Let's
Kinzinger? No.
yeah, let's toss this out there, shall we? Um, we know that the response has been abysmal. We know that they knew in September. All the
Yep.
branches knew in November.
Yep.
Someone kept it from him, or someone is manipulating this information to
Murray,
their own ends. I mean,
you were trying to get me to do a show in December, and I was so busy with my dad being sick. I'm like, yeah, now we got too many things to do. So we did the
mm,
Festivus show instead. It's like now I wish we would have done we would have been in cutting edge. So
hey, well, these are things that are going to come up, and what happens is in times of crisis, we are reactive. Heidi, you and I talk about that so much. How we're
yeah.
just reactive.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens and we react to it.
Yeah.
We're not thinking right now. We need to be thinking about the ethical questions related to opening up the government.
Right.
We need to be thinking, how are we going to manage civil liberties and safety? We
Right.
need to be making some really hard decisions here
Mm-hmm.
based on our country. Some countries it's easier. We are based on freedom and liberty. And this GOP loves to tout it. But
They
think
love to
about this.
take it
So everybody
away.
knew.
Yeah.
A bunch of people knew and nobody did anything.
Right.
Well, let's take it a step further than that. Huh? We have given out a minuscule amount of money to areas that were hardest hit that happen to be Democratic states, but a
Right.
shit ton
To
to
red states.
Republican states
Yep.
that haven't been hit yet.
Yes. Yes.
Now, Heidi,
Yeah.
this is a crazy question.
Mm-hmm.
So, we now know that African American communities are hit harder by
Oh
this
God,
disease.
it just turns my stomach. Yes. It
I know.
hurts.
We also, and whether it's existing comorbidities or the social system of healthcare in general or
Poverty.
socioeconomic
Poverty.
poverty, whatever the
Desperation.
case is, how easy would it be for Republican governors or um, counties that were worried to quarantine areas come election time?
Well, Murray, we talked about this in our pre-show about how the civil liberties we could use, and the Republicans are setting us up to not have a free and fair election as is. We have
With what, defunding the post office
yes,
and yet doing vote by mail?
right. You and I have been advocating for vote by mail, and we know here in Illinois that we're given every chance under the sun to register and to vote. People in red states don't understand what it's like to live in a blue state where they're like, yes, please, we want you to go vote. There's no hindrances. If you need free public transportation that day, you've got it. You need to register the day of to vote. You got
You
it.
can do
Whatever
it,
you
right?
need, we've got your back. And you go to a red state and they're like, yeah, we're going to close the polls and you're not going to be able to vote here, but you're not going to know that till you go there to vote. And we're not going to do mail in voting and you can't vote early. And, now today you need 6 pieces of ID and we've never needed that before. It's just, they will strip away your constitutional rights to vote every chance they can. And the thing that I was worried about in our pre-show, I told you, is I'm worried that they're going to say, you don't have the immunity card, you cannot come to vote. And
Yeah,
who's that going to affect? The disabled, the elderly, the very young, the very poor, the black and brown people. Let's be frank and honest. That is who they're trying to quit or keep from voting the most, is people of color.
absolutely.
And
I mean, it's well established that the
this
Democratic
is
Party depends on all types of people in order to be
but the
successful.
Republicans
So if you can
count on
disenfranchise
yes, the Republicans
as
count
many as
on
possible.
taking away voting rights as much as they can. We did our investigation for our vote by mail show it's been 50 plus years that the Republicans, never Democrats in the last 50 plus years, but boy, the Republicans keep coming at you voter suppression, voter suppression, voter suppression. And Trump even said, if we did vote by mail, Republicans would never win another election. That's right. They wouldn't, because all they do is hold people down. Sorry, I got on my
So
soapbox.
there's a lot. Well, no, and you're right. But these are, I know people are mentioning voting, and I know people are starting to think. We did a show on it, and I know we're thinking about that in the age of COVID and
Yeah.
concerns. But what I really want people to start thinking about
Mm-hmm.
is just because it may seem like a crazy idea, take a look at the other options. And if the other options seem less likely, then you know what? Then there's something wrong here. And if we don't have leadership, legislation, a governor, someone who's thinking about moving forward with this virus and
Right.
the need to open up and the false promises and anybody can be duped by information. So
Or
don't be.
misinformation. Misinformation.
Exactly.
Murray, I told you that, now I tweet Joe Biden probably every day, if not every other day, about the fairness doctrine. That we
Yes,
cannot,
you do.
yes, we cannot have false information touted on a huge news channel every damn day and expect our
It,
democracy to survive. We just can't.
yeah. Yeah.
We're all
No,
about
I
the First
know.
Amendment, but you can't yell fire in a crowded movie house. You cannot say bullshit on, a huge television station and expect bullshit not to become the norm. Just saying. You know.
There's so many things that about the fairness doctrine that are necessary and more important than ever. So if you haven't heard our fairness doctrine episode, guys, check it out because it will tell you part of why we are where we are is because that's been eroded.
So,
But remember, start thinking about things that are going to be important and bring those up to your legislators. Talk to those folks and be like, hey, what are your ethical considerations for
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Because, an ethicist would probably be a really good thing to have right now, even though I don't even know if that's still a job in this game.
Oh God, for the love of ethics and facts, I mean, just honest to God, we used to live and breathe ethics and facts, fair and balanced, and
Nope.
Fox News has taken that all away. Donald Trump is the love child of Newt Gingrich and Fox News. You know.
All right. So don't listen to Pennsylvania Avenue. Don't listen to Donald Trump. Listen to the Heartland Mamas every day. We have enough episodes to keep you busy during the boring quarantine. Most importantly, though, start talking to folks about some of the things that could really be coming down the line and be aware that
Now,
as we reopen, there are things we're going to have to
we're
address.
going to have to address. And if you have a state that allows early voting or mail in voting is the most important. Here in Illinois, August 5th is the day that we can request our mail in ballot for November 3rd. I, who love to go and vote on election day, am going to get a mail in ballot and mail it in because I don't want to lose my right to vote. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to give it to anyone. And I will fight tooth and nail to keep the post office because we need the post office. Um, we need it for so many reasons. It's in our Constitution. Not that that's ever mattered to Orange Caligula one bit. There is not a law he
Right.
won't break. There is not a constitutional amendment or
Which is even more terrifying because there are
article.
laws that he will create that are awful. So
Well, I think that
through this pandemic.
when Joe Biden picks up the reins in January, 2021, the first thing that Congress needs to push through is to negate anything Trump passed. I honest to God think that. I mean, we
Well, let's just get everyone there and not reinfected and not desolated by
yeah.
the time it happens. And
Now,
that is by paying attention.
yes. So
So pay attention to the Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com,
.com. Like, subscribe,
part
share.
of the Demcast
We bring
network.
you information before other people bring you information because we're that good.
We spend time studying for free. So, Marie, we're going to wrap up today with stay healthy, wear your mask, wear your gloves, stay home, you know,
Check out the Star-Bellied Sneetches by Dr. Seuss. I think I'm going to do a live when we
reading.
hang up here, Heidi. I think I'm going to do a live reading of the
Oh,
Star-Bellied
I think
Sneetches,
that's a great idea.
and we can attach it to the show because I think that's a big part of the whole problem we're in.
You know, Marie, ladies and gentlemen, Marie and I talked about our favorite books years ago, or episodes ago, and hers is Dr. Seuss's Really Sneetches, and mine was Carl Sagan's Shadows of a Forgotten Ancestry. And I think it's
They're a little
hilarious.
different.
No, but they come
I'm
down
going
to
to
the
tell you,
same thing.
Dr. Seuss, there is a Dr. Seuss book for every scenario.
Yeah.
That man was a genius,
Yes,
not only with nonsensical words, but the man, he was good.
he was. So,
Thanks again, folks. Thanks for joining us. And please like, subscribe, and share Heartland Mamas.
mamas.com. Take care now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hang on. I'm driving, so you have to give me time to find
I
where.
know, sweetie.
Okay. Well, they may not know. Bye.